Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons, and this is a miniature combat tutorial on Dungeons and Dragons, the 5e rules. We're going to cover the Sorcerer at level 1. I'm not going to be able to cover everything at level 1 for the Sorcerer, but I'm going to give you a general role play and show you how the Sorcerer would operate in a example combat. Now there are a whole bunch of things you need to remember about sorcerers. You're casting magic, you need to keep a track of spell slots, you need to have a fairly good idea of what cantrips and spells you're going to build into your character. What I'm going to do is I'm going to present you with an example. I'm selecting the most, I would say probably the most common source of the sorcerer, and that is a Dragonborn Sorcerer at level 1 with a dragon ancestor. Essentially it is the strongest out of the two that are available in the player's handbook, so it makes more sense to me to actually present that as an example. Also too, it's got a lot of options, particularly for the example I'm giving today, and that is the breath weapon. The breath weapon makes a big difference with Dragonborn, particularly if you're playing a sorcerer and things start to unwind on you, which they can. So let's have a look at the pre-generated character sheet we're going to be using today for the Dragonborn Sorcerer at level 1. You can download this from the Wizards of the Coast website. It's not something that I keep a secret or anything like that. So this particular Dragonborn Sorcerer at level 1 has an armor class of 14. This is because of the Draconic Resilience ability. And essentially it's like having a free mage armor on your sorcerer, which means you don't have to have mage armor as a spell because there would be no point. So it would be sort of overlapping too much. So essentially you get your armor class as 13 plus your dexterity modifier, and the dexterity modifier for this particular character is a +1, so therefore 13 plus 1 is 14. That's your armor class, and it's not really going to change much unless we start casting spells like shield and so forth. We've only got 9 hit points, which is fine. Speed of 30 feet, proficiencies, really you're going to be proficient in Arcana, Athletics, Intimidation and Survival, which we may or may not use, drums, daggers, darts, slings, quarterstaff, light crossbows. We have damage resistance to cold damage, which probably won't take a part to play today, unfortunately. And then we have our languages: Common, Draconic, Sylvan. We have access to a quarterstaff, which gives us a +2 to attack. It's not really our go-to weapon, unfortunately. And 5 feet is our reach. 1d8 or an 8-sided dice worth of bludgeoning damage. Your dagger is probably going to be more effective because it's a +3 to hit, and you're doing 1d4 +1 piercing damage. You can also throw that weapon. And then we have our dart, which is a +3. All of which you're really not going to use unless you are suddenly unable to cast spells. That's really the only reason I would say you'd use those sorts of things. The breath weapon is the one I want to point out. It gives you the ability as an action to exhale cold energy in a 5-foot cone, and each creature in that area must make a dexterity constitution saving throw, and that saving throw is, as it happens, a 12. So it's not bad for a level 1 character, and you're going to do 2d6 or 2 6-sided dice worth of cold damage on a failed save if the creatures fail it, and half that damage if they succeed. So no matter what, you will get to do some damage provided they cluster themselves up in a nice manner. What I'm going to do, unlike a lot of encounters today, I'm going to bring in the concept of surprise. So it could be a very short example, or it could be a very long example, we'll see. So the spells we know as cantrips are Blade Ward, really absolutely useless to you unless you have other party members with you who can do the attacking, because all it's going to do is reduce the amount of damage you take from piercing, bludgeoning and slashing. So it's going to give you resistance for 1 round, which sounds fine, but it's only useful if really you're sort of taking hits and you can't do anything else. So I wouldn't suggest it really unless you absolutely have no other choice. Mage Hand, not really a combat spell, could be used if you're very creative. Ray of Frost is the one we're going to go to. True Strike, really not very helpful for this character. The ones we're going to really focus on today are Ray of Frost, our slots for Magic Missile and Shield, and we're going to try and utilize our Breath Weapon for the Dragonborn. Those are the things I really want to focus on today. And of course, your opportunity to tell me I need to focus on something else will always be available near the end of the video. Okay, let's jump into our scene. So, travelling down the King's Road, our Dragonborn Sorcerer, we're going to just call this Dragonborn Sorcerer Dre, a female Dragonborn, and she's wandering down the road. She's on her own, which of course you would not do if you were playing Dungeons and Dragons. It's a group game, so you play with other people, but for the case of this example, this is how we're going to do it. And what Dre doesn't know is that there's an ambush being set up by needle blights. These are sort of like evil plant creatures, and there's one here, and one here, and they are hiding in the bushes. So we're going to do a stealth check for them, and then once we've done that, we're going to compare that with the passive perception of our Dragonborn. Our passive perception for the Dragonborn is only 11, so it's not very high. So I'm going to grab a 20-sided dice. Our modifier for the stealth check in this case is only a +1. The dexterity modifier on a needle blight's pretty low. So I roll a 20-sided dice. So I rolled a 6, +1 is 7. So that means that even though they were trying to hide from our Dragonborn, it is unsuccessful. So no surprise actually takes place. It's kind of unfortunate. It would have been quite interesting. It would have been a very, very short video. But otherwise, that's essentially how surprise works. That means that there will be no surprise from anybody in the first round of combat. So we're going to roll initiative as we normally do. Essentially what happens is that the creatures give themselves away, the brushes rustle, and Dre knows something's up and starts to sort of prepare, readying herself for some sort of an attack, or that something's lurking in the bushes, or maybe spots one of these needle blight tree creatures moving in the brush, and that's what triggers our combat. So we'll start off with the Sorcerer, and I'm going to roll a 20-sided dice, adding our dexterity modifier, because that's what our initiative will be based off. It's not very good though. I rolled a 2 + 1 for dexterity modifier. It's only 2 + 1 is 3. It's very low. So we'll stick that down here. Sorcerer. And we only got a 3. That means that I suspect that our needle blights are all going to wind up getting a lot better than that. So I'm only rolling 1 dice for the initiative for our needle blights. Okay, rather than 1 for every single one, it would just be a drag. It's just cleaner and easier. Same creature. So I rolled a 6 + 1, so I got a 7. So everybody's getting a very low score today. Don't know why. Okay, needle blight. There we go. Oops. Needle blight. Okay, we've got 7. And we've got more than 1, so I'm just going to go needle blight, because there's 3. I've been quite ruthless today in terms of how many enemies that they'll have to face. And there's where our hit points will go, and then our Sorcerer. Now Sorcerer has 9 hit points. It's not many, and each of the blights has 11. Sounds terrible, doesn't it, Fred? What are you trying to do? Okay, so essentially this is how it's been organised. It means the blights will get to go first. They'll get to act on the first round of combat. I'm going to use the magnets over here, so I'll get rid of these magnets because that's just a distraction if they're there, right? I was thinking about that before. I was thinking 1 magnet's enough, Fred, 1 magnet. So starting at the top of the first needle blight. What are we going to do with our needle blight? Well, I think the first thing I'm going to do, since they were trying to surprise and ambush our Dre, the Sorcerer, we're going to just make a ranged needle attack. Now it has a range of 30 feet, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that's 30 feet there. It's outside of 30 feet, which means it's going to be at disadvantage because it can go to an extreme range of 60 feet, but I get disadvantage on the attacks. Okay, so I'm going to roll with disadvantage for each attack, and that will determine where we're at, basically, in terms of hitting Dre. Now remember, Dre's armor class is a 14. So first needle blight, and I rolled a 7, and the modifier for the needle attack is a 3, so 7 plus 3. So remember, with disadvantage, we take the lowest number on the dice. And it's out of the 2 dice, there's a 14 and a 17, so we take the 7. Okay, so that essentially means that all we're going to do is miss, because 7 plus 3 is 10. It's lower than the armor class of Dre. So moving on, I'm going to just change those dice out. They don't really show up very well on the camera. So next one, same sort of thing. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, just in range, still at disadvantage. Okay, so I got a 2 and a 13. So 2 plus 3, it's not very high, it's only 5. It's not equal to or greater than the armor class of Dre, so that one misses. Same thing with this one. I'm not going to apply cover because even though there's a rock there, I feel like the line and path is relatively clear. There is a line and path that's relatively clear. Okay, oh, this is where things get interesting. I rolled quite high this time. I rolled a 17 and an 18. So I take the lowest result, which is the 17, add my plus 3 for my needle blight here, which is 20. 20 is equal to or greater than the armor class of Dre, which is 14. So we hit. We're going to do some damage now. So with our needles, we do 2 6-sided dice worth of damage, plus 1 piercing. So it's quite a lot of damage for a little level 1 character. So I roll that. So that's 4 plus 2 comes to a grand total of, oh, we've got to add our 1. So that's 7 points of damage. So Dre has just taken 7 points of damage. You should be able to just make out at the bottom the armor class there. So 9, take away 7, and we're going to get 2. It's going to be a very quick fight. I'm just going to move that up just a fraction so you guys can see what's going on. I feel like that's just a little bit out of the frame and you couldn't probably see the number completely. And it's about as straight as I can get it right now. Okay, so we've done all of our needle blights. I'm going to go down to our sorcerer and get Dre to take her turn. Now Dre has the option of running away at this point. Absolutely, completely legit. Use your movement, move 30 feet, use your action, move another 30 feet, and that would probably get you out of harm's way and you know, just end the combat. But we're not going to run. We're going to do the exact opposite. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to move up and we're going to cast a spell. And the spell we're aiming for is Ray of Frost. Ray of Frost is one of those things. Now, bearing in mind, I could have used a reaction to stop that hit that hit Dre. That was definitely an option. So for those of you who are wondering why I didn't do that, one, because I just wanted to have the sorcerer take a few hit points to begin with. I can still do it later on. It's not like it's not an option to me. So it's still possible to do it. So just because Dre has 2 hit points is not the end of the story. Okay, so moving up, I'm going to move up and I'm going to go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. I'm going to place myself here. Now there's a reason why I'm doing this. I'm outnumbered. I really want to lull them into a sense of having the advantage so they get in closer so I can use the breath weapon. That's what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to target this creature. I'm going to give it cover because it's in the brush, so that'll be +2 to whatever its armor class is. Its armor class is normally a 12, but in this case it's going to be up by +2, so it's now 14. So we're going to shoot it with a Ray of Frost. So grab our 20-sided dice. It's a ranged spell attack, Ray of Frost. It has a range of 60 feet and it will slow things down a little bit. Now I could also target this creature. In fact, I'm going to do that instead. We'll target this creature here. Roll your attack dice. Oh, I feel like maybe that is a cocked dice. Yeah, there we go. We're going to call that a cocked dice today. We'll roll that again. And that might be a cocked dice as well. No, it isn't. Okay. All right, so we've got an 18. 18 plus our spell attack modifier for Ray of Frost, which is a +5. So 18 plus 5 is 23. 23 is greater than or equal to the armor class of our Needle Blight, who currently has 14. It's not 12. It's 14 because of the +2 because of the cover. They're in the trees. Okay. So going to do some damage. So grab your 8-sided dice. You do not add your proficiency modifier to this damage. You do not add your spell attack modifier to the damage done with a cantrip. This particular cantrip is just the 8-sided dice. That's it. So I rolled a 1. So it's not very much damage. That's all right. And we'll just go, this is the middle one, so we'll just take out that. Go down to 10. Like so. There we go. Not a lot of damage, but that's all right. It doesn't matter. Next, moving back up, and it's the Needle Blight's turns. I'm going to have the Needle Blights move out of cover and attack. It has been a pretty ineffectual attack. It hasn't done very much. Now the thing about Ray of Frost is it also slows a creature down by 10 feet, so it can't move quite as fast. So this creature's got 30 feet, so it's going to move up and just go in, and it's going to move and use its claws instead of its needles this time. This one's going to move up as well, 5, 10, 15, and this one is going to move as well. Now its speed is normally 30 feet. But it's now going to be reduced by 10 feet, which means it can only move 20 feet. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20. It now has to use its action to move again to get engaged in and actually be able to target Dre. But instead of doing that, it's going to just make a needle attack. Now, that sort of throws out my ability to use my breath weapon. And I know what you're thinking, well, Fred, if that's the case, then it's all gone to custard and it's made things more difficult. Well, not really, and I'll show you in a second. So we'll make our attacks first with the Needle Blights. They don't have disadvantage, they don't have advantage on the attacks. Second round of combat, grab our 8-sided dice. I'm going to grab the, where's the sparkly, there we go, grab the sparkly one. Starting off with the claws on this one. So I rolled a 3, add 3, that's 6. 6 is not equal to or greater than the armor class of Dre, so that's Blight 1, unsuccessful. This one is going to throw needles at Dre this time. And I rolled a 9, add my 3 for that, which is only 9 plus 3 is 12. Still doesn't hit Dre because Dre has an armor class of 14, which is good. So moving down to the last Needle Blight, who will use claws. I rolled an 18. Okay, 18 plus 3. Not good, that's 21. That's definitely greater than or equal to the armor class of Dre, who's only got 14. So this is when we're going to use our reaction and use shield. Okay? Now, the problem with using shield in this situation, unlike most other situations, it's going to be a good option. If I add shield, which only gives me a +5 to my armor class for a round, that means essentially that what's going to take place is my armor class goes from 14 to 19. So 14 plus 5 is 19. But the attack is 21. It would be greater than. Now, I know a lot of people get upset and confused with dungeon masters and players and the rigmarole about how does shield work. The intention of shield from the creators is that if it's not going to be effective, if in other words, because you already rolled the attack, you know that you know what it is. Now, some dungeon masters won't tell you the numerical number; they'll just say it hit, and you have to make that choice about whether you use shield or not. So, what's the deal with shield? Can you be told what the numerical value is, and then decide whether it's worth using shield or not, or do you have to take that risk and have your dungeon master say it hit or it miss? And if it hit, then you have to make the decision and just guess, basically, if it's going to be effective or not. I'm not going to get into it. I think the designers really intended for there to be metagaming taking place rather than for shield to be used as a guesswork spell. That's my view of shield. I haven't done a video on the topic as such, but I know it's a topic that's come up a few times, and I honestly think it's better to allow, it's a first level spell with a first level character. There's only so many shields you can throw up, even at higher levels without burning higher level slots. It's a sorcerer, so knocking a sorcerer down is actually pretty easy. It's not that hard to do. So therefore, I think it's kind of reasonable to allow the players to actually know what the numerical value is. Okay, Alright, so in this case it's not going to work. Putting up shield won't help. So it's going to take some damage. So we're going to roll for the claws, and that's a 2 4-sided dice plus 1. That's a lot of damage. That's probably going to take out the sorcerer. Down we go. So I rolled a 1 and I rolled a 2. 2 plus 1 is 3, plus another 1 is 4. So 4 is going to reduce our sorcerer to 0 hit points. And I know what you're thinking, well Fred, we didn't even get anywhere near casting any of the other spells. What are you thinking? Well, because like all things, I can just turn the clock back if I want to. Okay, so we move down and we have some death saving throws. So roll a 20-sided dice. It's a death saving throw. You don't add anything to this dice roll unless you have a spell that increases or gives you bonuses or benefits to a saving throw or a death saving throw. Okay, alright, so rolling my, now I don't want to get a 1, that would be bad. A 10 means 1 success. 1 success. If I'd got a 1, I would get 2 failures. If I'd got a 2 to a 9, I would get 1 failure. If I roll a 10 through to 19, I get 1 success. If I get a 20, I can get back up on my turn with 1 hit point. And as it happens, I can get up because it's the very first thing you do is you, at the start of your turn, you make that saving throw. So it means you can still do something if you need to. That doesn't happen for me in this case. But that doesn't matter. Because, as I said, I'm the Dungeon Master and I can just turn back the clock. I'm going to just eliminate that damage there. Plonk. And I'm going to give back Dre her hit points. See, nothing to be concerned about. Although, if we'd kept going, I would imagine that would have been the end of Dre. Okay, so back to the top of the initiative. Let's assume that no spells have been expended, and this is how things equated and started off we'll start our combat again. So round 1. First thing, our blights will take their turns. And I'm going to have each of these make attacks. So I grab my, where is that? There it is. Make a claw attack with this one here. So that's 14, add my modifier, which is a 13, so that's 14 plus 3, 17. 17 is greater than and equal to the armor class of Dre. So here's a good chance and time to use shield as a reaction. There's no surprise involved. It doesn't matter that the sorcerer hasn't acted first. It's got nothing to do with that. It's a reaction. You can do it. Okay? Alright, so done. So we're going to put up the shield. So that means that my armor class for Dre is a lot higher. It's not 14 anymore because I'm adding 5. It's now 19. Now it's going to last for the entire round. Right through the entire round, which is good. It's excellent. It's exactly what we need. Otherwise, things are going to look really bad. So this is the new armor class for Dre. So first attack misses. I'm going to just move this one in and we'll use the claws. Same thing again. So I rolled a 17 and I add my modifier for the blight, which is a 3. So 17 plus 3 is 20. 20 is greater than the armor class of Dre, so there will be some damage done with the claws. The claws do 2d4 plus 1, so we'll grab those dice and roll them. So Dre is still going to take damage, even though shield is still in play and the armor class is higher, still taking damage. So I rolled a 1 and a 4, add 1 to that, that's a total of 6. So Dre takes 6 points of damage, even with shield up. Shield is not a concentration spell, so you don't have to make concentration checks or anything like that. So I now have 3 hit points. La-da, just like that. Okay, so let's do the next attack on Dre. Next we'll set of claws. I rolled a 10 plus 3 is 13. 13 is too low, it's not going to hit. So we've got through all the blights, we're down to the sorcerer. Sorcerer's taken some damage. Now here's an opportunity to think about how you can position yourself for an attack so you can use a breath weapon. Now the breath weapon can be from any corner on the square. If you're using a grid, it's from any corner, so it doesn't matter. But to do that, I have to take a risk. I really want to use the breath weapon because it's probably going to be more of an advantage to me than to not do it. So I'm going to move here, which means I have to move away from this blight who can take an attack of opportunity. I still have my shield running, so that's all right. That doesn't matter. Okay, so the blight will take the attack. Oh my gosh! The thing about doing these things live is you never know what you're going to roll. So I just rolled a critical, and my plan has gone haywire because it won't matter if I've got shield or not. No matter. 20 is an automatic hit, and it's also a critical, does critical damage. So Dre is probably going to be going down very shortly from the strike. So we'll grab the dice for that, and we'll see how bad it is. I'll move that out of the way, and we'll grab some other four-sided dice. So when you do a critical, whatever dice you're going to roll, double them. Okay? I know some people just double the value that you roll on the dice. I know some people like to double the number of dice they roll. I think that players really like the idea of just doubling the number of dice they roll. It really, honestly, it won't matter in the slightest. The only thing that we don't double is the modifier for the claws, which is +1. So I roll these dice. So I rolled a 1, and another 1, and a 4. So 1 and 1 is 2, 4, 6, and I got a 2 on this one, so that's 8. And 9, well that's more than enough to take Dre down. Oh, we're down here again. That's terrible. Anyway, okay, well my little plan didn't work out the way I'd hoped. I thought that that would be sufficient to have shield running and a 14 armor class. But you just can't, you can't predict when a 20 is going to be rolled, can you? Anyway, doesn't matter. As I said, I'm the Dungeon Master and I can just do whatever the heck I like with this combat. So I'm just going to pump her back up again. Let's say this is this third try in our combats to get this to work. All right, here we go. Okay, so we'll start again, and I don't know how many times I want to keep repeating it. We'll see how we go. We're getting into 30 minutes now, but I want to just do it. Let's just do it. Let's just say this is where we're at. We'll do the breath weapon and get it done. So where can it start from? Any corner that your miniature or character is on. And it's a 5-foot cone. So there's a cone. Okay? So for those of you who are wondering where would it lie, it's going to lie something like that. That's how it's going to work. Okay? I know some people say, no, a cone works a certain way and you can, yes, they're in a line. You'll be able to hit all 3 of those. Be a nice Dungeon Master and allow them to use it from this point, from this corner here, from that corner there. There's your target point, and it's just got to pass through some of them, and it just beads out and goes this way. All right, so let's make some Constitution saving throws for the breath weapon for each of our blights. Starting with Blight 1, Constitution saving throw required is a 12. Their Constitution is only a +1. There's nothing else that we add to that. It's not special in any way. So we'll start. So I rolled a 1 I rolled a 4 +1 is 5. Well, that's less than the Constitution saving throw required. We needed to get equal to or greater than. So we're going to take in full damage on this creature. Oh, isn't that good? Finally, it's working out for Dre. All right, so we'll roll the 2 6-sided dice for our cold damage. And I rolled a 1 and I rolled a 3. So that's 4 damage in total. So first one takes 4 damage. It's 11. Take away 4, that's going to be 7. Here we go. Let's do the next one. Saving throw here. And I roll a 5 +1 is 6, so failed again. It's going to take all the damage. I don't need to roll this every single time. Once I've rolled the damage for this effect, you just leave it. So we use the same number again. So we'll drop down this Needle Blight by the same value. It's now on 7. I won't use that because that's a big marker and it stands out a bit more. There we go. And the last Needle Blight, I rolled an 11, add 1 to that, it's only 12. 12 is enough to save. So this Needle Blight takes half the damage. It's only going to take half that cold damage. Kind of handy in this case, I guess. So 2 damage instead of 4 damage. So we'll rub that out. That means 11 minus 2 is 9. Poof. Just like that. Very, very simple. Now we can roll round and start our round again if we wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. I think we've demonstrated how to use the breath weapon. I've shown people how to use Magic Missile before in other videos. Certainly you can use, now one of the things that I know a lot of people aren't necessarily too aware of is you're not going to get an attack of opportunity on you by casting Magic Missile right up in the face of some creature. So if you wanted to do that, you can. There's no attack roll required, so there's no disadvantage applied. You're just going to roll your damage and do your damage if you wanted to, if you're up close and it's your turn to do so. So Magic Missile is great for hitting something that's hard to hit. It's because there's no attack roll and there's no saving throw involved. It's really good if you're at range and they've got cover, not total cover. You have to be able to see the target. And it's really good if you're up close and you've got no other weapons that you can use, because you're essentially getting 3 darts. And I know a lot of people have had this is another thing that comes up about Magic Missile. At level 1, do you get to roll 3 dice for each missile, or are you only rolling 1 dice and adding +1 to that? Yeah, are you rolling 3 dice and adding 1 to each of those dice for the damage output, or are you just rolling 1 of those 8-sided dice and then adding 1 to that, and then you just apply that to all of 3 darts? It doesn't matter. Who cares? It really is unimportant. And I thought it was quite amusing in one of Jeremy Crawford's tweets where he said the intention is that you roll 1 dice and you add +1 to it, and then you just apply that to all 3 darts. But it doesn't matter whether you do it the other way. It's honestly unimportant. It would be something you could argue at your table if you've got nothing better to do. So we're not going to even bother doing that. So that's really all I have for today with regard to the Sorcerer. I didn't want to go over Blade Ward. It's really not appropriate unless you have a party with you and there's no other choice. It's always better to use an attacking spell and just do pump out damage. Mage Hand is great as a utility, but not really a combat spell. And True Strike is so situational, it's not funny. There is the time and a place for it, but not really with this character, and certainly not in this situation. Okay, so that's really all I have. If you liked the video, please share and like the video with somebody else. If you like this sort of thing, please consider subscribing. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, hit the bell button to be notified when I do another live stream or publish new videos. If you want to support me, you supported me by watching this video. I have 100 more videos, hundreds, it's like 700 now. You're welcome to go and check them out. There's bound to be something you'll find useful. Now, I don't do Patreon, but I do have affiliate links down in the description. You know the deal. You buy stuff online, I get a small commission. You pay exactly the same price. Just go through the link, buy what you want. You do not have to buy the thing I have linked to. Now, this is your opportunity to give feedback in the live chat. If you have questions, if you want to say hi, if you want to add something, if you want to point out that really I made a bad decision in combat, well, you're welcome to do that too. It's fine. Really, these little things that I do here are really trying to demonstrate a whole lot of different features in a small space of time, which is quite difficult sometimes. But you're welcome to give some feedback. And yeah, that's really all there is. Now, if you're not part of the live stream, then that's what the comments section is all about, down in the comments. Now, if you put in comments that are not very nice, I'm not going to respond. But if it's a legitimate question, yeah, I will generally respond to most people. Anyway, that's it. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.